Today, we're gonna cut into real tattooed skin to find out why a tattoo is forever. We'll find out who inside you eats ink every day in hopes of saving your body. We'll break it down and see exactly how ink gets into your skin and how deep it goes. And we'll also find out where the desire to put designs on our bodies came from and how it's linked to severed heads. I think we should start with the history. Originally, tattoos were actually done for medical purposes. A man who lived over 5,000 years ago was found in the Alps, and tattoos were discovered on his aching joints. Scientists concluded that the tattoos weren't for beauty. It was something along the lines of acupuncture.
Boring!
Okay, let's leave the history for now and finally go cut or poke something. Have you ever wondered, if our skin is constantly renewing itself, why do tattoos stay with us forever? Imagine that this is your skin. I know it's hard to do, but let's assume that this strange substance is the epidermis, which is the top layer of your skin, and below it are denser layers, the dermis and hypodermis. Now look, for example, we decided to inject tattoo ink into the top layer of the skin. Wait, that doesn't seem like the best example. Let's change the shape of our improvised skin a bit. There, that's better. It seems simple, the liquid went in and stayed, but it's much more complex. Because if we really applied the tattoo only to the top layer of skin, then after just a couple of trips to the shower with a loofah, your tattoo would simply vanish because the skin just renews itself, meaning the ink goes deeper. But how much deeper? For clarity, we'll turn to an experiment that's already been conducted. Here we can see exactly how the needles penetrate the skin and to what depth. Notice that the ink almost reaches the end of the second layer of skin, which means we've discovered for ourselves that it stays in a layer of skin called the dermis. But if the ink goes so deep, why doesn't it just spread through the body over time, but stays in the same position in which it was originally injected? I suggest we look at an example. It's always clearer that way. When pigment enters the skin, the immune system kicks in, which really dislikes foreign objects in our body. Our body has so-called scavenger cells, or in other words, macrophages. They may be small, but they do big things. The moment the body realizes that ink has penetrated our skin, it sends these guys to swallow the foreign object. But unfortunately, the scavenger cells don't have the ability to completely destroy the ink pigment. So they envelop it and fix it in one position. And when the cell's life cycle comes to an end, a new scavenger will take its place, which will again swallow the ink pigment and prevent it from spreading through the body. But why does a tattoo still lose its former contrast over time and turn into a faded sketch? Let's look at an example of real skin. This is practice skin, which is used for honing tattoo application skills. If we cut it open, an interesting picture will be revealed to us. Take a look at the blurred outlines of the ink. The tattoo was done relatively recently, but the ink inside the skin has already started to spread out and lose its contrast. An attentive viewer would say that this skin has no scavenger cells, so there's simply nothing to keep the pigment in one place. That's partly true, but the skin in this case also can't regenerate, which means something else is affecting the contrast, and that something else is the sun. It's precisely because of the ultraviolet exposure on this design that the pigment began to break down, especially the colored ink, meaning our bright star is to blame for our tattoo touch-up expenses. So what's the deal with the history? Why do we even love putting designs on ourselves so much? At the beginning of the video, we already touched on the fact that people originally used tattoos for medical purposes. What happened next? Well, since people didn't have passports back then, tattoos began to be used as a kind of language. In Polynesian tribes, the patterns on the skin could tell where you were from, who you were, your status, and even how many feats you'd achieved. A tattoo is always painful, and that's exactly why it becomes a symbol. If you've gone through it, it means you're worthy. It's just a shame that the Europeans who sailed to these places honestly didn't care at all about the sacred meanings the locals attached to these designs. To them, it was just something unusual and something they wanted to take back with them as a souvenir. And how do you take a tattoo with you? The Europeans simply offered to pay the locals for severed heads with beautiful tattoos. Apparently, they wanted cool new keychains that badly. And so began the darkest period in the history of tattoos. The Maori people in New Zealand had incredibly complex tattoos on their faces. The more complex and colorful the tattoos, the cooler and stronger the person was, meaning the most beautiful tattoos belonged, of course, to the chiefs. But you won't find many chiefs, and besides, just try taking a head from one. So the locals started tattooing the faces of their captives and bringing them to the Europeans for payment. These heads were dried and brought to Europe as souvenirs. In this way, the tattoo becomes part of the global market for the first time. Over time, tattoos made their way to Europe, first through sailors, then through the army, and then through presents. And by the 19th and 20th centuries, the tattoo gained a new reputation as a marker of outcasts, criminals, pariahs, and rebels. It seems that's all there is to it. Tattoos are either tribal or criminal. But then another new stage in history occurs. The 20th century, tattoo machines became safer, inks more stable, and the tattoo transformed into what we know it as today, a means of self-expression. Thanks for watching this video to the end. As always, this has been the FataMorgana channel. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, because it's only going to get more interesting.